Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay. I just want to take the mic off and look like a rock star. My name's Terrance Houle. My Blackfoot name is Iniwakima, which means buffalo herder. I'm Blackfoot Ojibwe, Soto Ojibwe they call it. And I always like to start off and say Oki, which in my language it means hello. And I'd like to just acknowledge the First Nations people in this area and like to thank them as well for allowing me in their territory. And I'd like to thank the Owens, UNB, and Aaron, and all of you. I just want to start off and talk a little bit about my life and kind of growing up. I was born and raised in the prairies. I always like to say that because my father was in the Canadian Army, and we grew up in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and we traveled a lot, not only through the Army, but as Aboriginal, I guess, performer, because I had grown up powwow dancer. So basically, we would go to all these reservations all across sort of the prairies and into the United States and BC, and we'd just powwow dance and go to ceremonies and things like that. And then I would go back to Army base life, I guess, or living in the city. So I always like to think that I've kind of lived in these parallel worlds. I don't ever like to say that I go in between them, but just that I've functioned between or with them both. So in that saying, I'm a prairie boy. So a lot of this sort of impacts my artwork. I look to my life as inspiration for a lot of my works, whether it's humor, tragedy, or something sort of mellow. And yeah, that's kind of about myself. Now you guys tell me about you. No. So this is my daughter here. I'm a father as well. I have a 6-year-old daughter. Well, she's going to be 6. So this is a portrait I did with her. I went to the Alberta College of Art and Design, and I graduated from the fiber department there. And I basically did a lot of performance work there, and a lot of film and video, and just sort of got into dealing with my identity and dealing with my identity within a European art sort of world. And how, I guess, when I kind of came out of college, I wasn't sure what I was going to do and my path that I was going to take. And I got into the Banff Center and I did a residency there. And I got to meet all these really awesome artists from all around the world that were Indigenous and that were sort of like-minded. So after I finished the residency, I still kind of didn't know where I wanted to go with my practice, and I knew that I wanted to make work. And one of the first works that I had made was this piece called Indian. And it was a piece I shot out sort of near my house. And I'd always drive by this Winnebago Indian camper. And I don't know if you've seen the series of Winnebagos. They're called Chief, with the Warrior, and the Indian. So I thought this was interesting, and so I just went out and shot it. We just went and guerrilla shot. A lot of the stuff that I do, we'll just go and shoot. We'll sort of pre-plan it and just kind of jump out of our vehicle and then jump back in and get out of there, which sometimes gets us in trouble. So this piece was kind of inspired by a bit by Robert Houle, who's a relative of mine and a painter. So this is the next piece I'd sort of worked on. I'm going to run through my earlier works and then try to get to my newer works. This is a piece called Red-Handed, and I shot this in my backyard during Stampede. And the interesting thing about this was the police watched us the whole time doing this, and then they came up with their lights off really slowly. And I collaborate quite a bit with a lot of different artists, and I've worked with a photographer, Jerusha Brown, on a lot of these series. And she just grabbed her camera and she just was like, shit, fuck, oh, shit, cops. And I'm like, so? I mean, I'm used to the cops. I mean, I get stopped by them all the time. But
Are you doing something wrong here? I'm not understanding.
well, that's the thing, is we weren't doing anything wrong. But the police were just watching us and wondering what we were doing. And growing up, one of the things was always sort of being walking down the street and being stopped by the police because of my skin color and who I was, and being an Aboriginal.
That's what you're doing wrong.
Yeah. So this piece was kind of being caught in that, being caught in my identity, and the implications of violence or something. So it's kind of humorous but tragic at the same time. And so is my belly. This is a piece called Remembering Grade ... that I was asked to, for the show in BC, I was asked to remember something and create a work out of that memory. And when I was asked to remember something, this was the first thing that I remembered, was these paper bag Indian suits that I had to make when I was a child. I'd spend my summers powwow dancing, and then I'd come back to the city or to the school that I was in, and either on the army base or in the city, and then we'd have to do Thanksgiving activities. And this was one of the Thanksgiving activities. So I always found it really weird because I'd spend my whole summer dancing in my regalia, and then I'd come back and I'd have to make this sort of ridiculous suit. And I remember I told my teacher that this isn't what we wear. This is like grade 1. And I used to have braids too at the time, and I got punished for that, and I had to go sit in the corner. So there's another piece I worked on, Indian Germans. When I was in at ACAD, I did a paper on the Indian Germans, which is a phenomenon in Eastern Europe where they've taken on the identity of Indians. And the reason why I say Indians is because they pan-Indian everything there. They don't differentiate between the different tribes and the different peoples. So they just kind of dress up in regalia that's mixed and matched. So I wrote a paper on it, and then I had a friend of mine, he's actually Dutch, and he had long hair, and we were planning to do this piece, and he wanted to cut his hair off, so we just went and shot it. And then I found out, I showed this to my grandmother actually, and my grandmother was just howling, and she said, "You know we're part German, right?" And I'm like, I didn't know that. So now I'm wanting to look more and more to that side of my family and find out, because we had one of my great-grandfathers was German, and he actually dyed his hair black and wouldn't talk to people, because at the time, if they found out that my grandmother had married an outsider, she would have lost her status as an Aboriginal. So I'm sort of in the midst of researching that. And this is my third film that I'd worked on. I did 2 previous films called The Wagon Burner and Cows, and then this is my third Super 8 film. It's called The Metrosexual Indian. I shot it in about an hour, I think, or something like that. And it's a Super 8. It's a bit grainy, and I'm just going to show it to you quickly here.
confess. Oh, that I know what for you I do not lie, do I? Oh, what's that you say once or twice? Now what's that supposed to mean? That means a little bit of shit. I never heard that before, no sir. Oh, now you know what I mean now. Oh, now you know what I mean now. Oh no, no, oh no, no.
So that was a short film that I'd worked on with a guy by the name of Shane Ghostkeeper, who's a local musician in Calgary. And when I first met Shane, he was, I saw this sort of beautiful man, you know, he was really hot, everybody just sort of wanted him, you know, and I was intrigued kind of by his image and this idea of sort of metrosexuality and how it sort of plays with Aboriginal people. And a lot of the times he would tell me that he would get, you know, beaten up and threatened by other Aboriginal men when he went to powwows and things like that because of how he looked, because he looked so gorgeous, I guess. So I wanted to do a film that was kind of based on this sort of, I guess in a sense, vanity, but also homophobia and its sort of rampantness in not only our culture, but especially in Aboriginal culture, because it's a significant thing because of the residential school, and a lot of those systems took away a lot of family values and a lot of sort of male and female gender roles that were traditional to Aboriginal people. And they've made the male very insecure. And there's a lot of gay bashing and a lot of violence on reservations based upon that. So I kind of wanted to address that in a manner that sort of left it dangling, that it's not sort of, there isn't a solution. So that's why he gets beaten up in the end, and you know, it's kind of tragic. So that was one of my films that I'm going to be showing a series of films through this and some video work. When I was at ACAD, I did a lot of performance work, sort of experimenting with different things, especially my body. I sort of sunk into being a father right after I graduated. My daughter was born, and I kind of just let it go. And I was intrigued again about that the male sort of aspect, and not only I guess the Aboriginal male aspect and this sort of glorification of it through film and video and through sort of Hollywood and through what we've learned within the curriculum of the Canadian sort of school system. And I was always intrigued by those pictures of voyageurs and the Indian in the canoe, and they're just like, oh, I'm paddling, you know. And I was always like, that's not how our people are, you know. So me and my friend Trevor Freeman, who's Métis, and he's a direct relation to Gabriel Dumont, who's one of the earlier settlers of Rupert's Land, or the Riel Rebellion. Anyway, we decided to do a performance called Portage, and we were joking about this first. We were like, wouldn't it be funny if a native guy and a Métis guy were portaging downtown? And my friend who runs a festival was like, hey, we want you to do that. And we're like, oh, crap. So we portaged. And this was the first portage, 2005, in Calgary during the Alberta Centennial. And we portaged Paul Martin's speech. So he was giving a speech and we were right behind him, portaging. And the CSIS were just like, yeah, let him through, you know. And it was funny, we got stopped by a Calgary police officer, and he goes, I always like to say he went cowboy on us, and he's like, hey, what are you guys doing? And we're like, portaging. And he's like, what's that? And we explained it to him, and then he said, you better not get carried away with that, or I might have to shoot first and ask questions later. And I'm just wearing that, right? And I'm like, crap. So every time we do this, we always have an encounter with the police, and it's quite interesting. Because we also did it in Vancouver. And just before this, the harbor police came down and were yelling at us because we didn't have bailing buckets and life jackets. And we said, well, we're portaging through the city. And he's like, well, why would you do that? So here we are, downtown Vancouver. And for this one, I decided to pull out my old loincloth, breechcloth from when I was 9. So that's what I'm wearing right there. My belly sort of hangs over it. This is at the Grunt Gallery. There we are in front of the VAG. Robson. And it's interesting doing this piece because a lot of people, they either try not to not care that you're there, or they totally get stoked by it and they want to like take pictures with you and stuff. So this piece is really, we really kind of wanted to do an endurance piece. So we do it for about 4 hours and we plan a route out. And our route, usually we hit landmarks and we do photo ops at each landmark. And it's a wetless portage, so we don't actually get the canoe wet. And we usually do photo ops and just kind of tour the city, I guess. So we did this also in Toronto, in the middle of a snowstorm. And this one I actually made a whole suit, and I kind of wanted it to be like fashionable, because Toronto's fashionable. And I think they actually had the Toronto fashion thing going on at this time. So there it is, total snowstorm. So we just recently did this in Ottawa in a couple of months ago, in the spring. And we got kicked off of Parliament Hill and yelled at and almost arrested. And then the RCMP tailed us, which was kind of funny because we're just holding this and we look back. Is that the RCMP? They're tailing us. But we got yelled at. We tried to go up to the House of Commons there, and this RCMP, all these high school kids were coming up, and they're just and we're going up, and all the kids go through, and then this RCMP officer just goes, no, stop, you are not allowed up here. And then we went down to this other place, and these little elementary school kids were doing a tour of one of the buildings, and they saw us, and they just kept going. It's quite amazing. Yeah. So we usually stop at places like this. At the same time, I also did another piece called Hey Who Won. And these are kind of earlier performance works, where me and a cowboy play board games all day. and we battle for the West via board game. So in the evening, the camper, it was done for the truck gallery camper, and they have this old 70s camper that they give to artists to make work and whatnot out of, and then they present it downtown. So that's actually a video projection in the middle. So it looks like we're playing board games into the night. We're playing charades, and we also did, what's the game with the circles and you gotta bend yourself? Twister? Twister in a loincloth? Not pretty. Things dangle. So in Toronto, we did it this was the trailer that we got to use in Toronto. And this is one of the games we get to play, Dream Phone, which has this big phallic-y pink phone. Everyone, This was the Harbourfront, and we did it at the Harbourfront, and the theater center hosted us. So there's Franco. He wanted us to play the game with him. So that game, you call up your boyfriend, the boys on the card. You call up the number, and then they tell you hints about your boyfriend or your secret crush or whatever. So there we are again. We're playing Yahtzee, and we tally up, and in the end, we see who wins, the Cowboys or the Indians. And I think Toronto, the Indians won, and Calgary, the Cowboys won. This is a piece I did with Adrian Stimson in a show, and it's just called The Paper Bag Indian Princess. And I was Adrian asked me to sort of develop a piece that accompanied one of his pieces here, which is an old infirmary bed from the Old Sun Residential School and a buffalo hide wrapped in there. So I did a piece called The Paper Bag Indian Princess, and it was based on this. When I was growing up, kids used to call me Indian giver, and they'd always call me derogatory words and things, and I was always sort of taught to let it roll off your back. And this one kid's like, "You're an Indian giver." I said, "That's not even a real word." And he's like, "Yeah, it is. Look it up in the dictionary." So I looked it up in the dictionary that was there at the time, and it was there. And I was like, "Wow, you're right." So I went and found all these old dictionaries, and that's made out of handmade paper, and it's really fragile. And it's just a body form of a 14-year-old girl from one of my summer media classes. The kids got to make the mold and actually make that piece for me. So, and then the term on the wall there is actually the term from the dictionary. Oh,
Can you read that?
sure. Indian giver, informal, a person who, when offended, takes back a gift after bestowed. Usage based on the idea that an Indian gives a gift and expected another in return. This is insulting to Indians and should be avoided. That was the actual definition.
Am I not correct in having read that the original usage was not applied to the indigenous people, but to the European people who would take the gifts
Yeah.
and give it to the Indians?
Yeah, but that's one of the things that I've heard, but this is the dictionary though. Lucky it's not wiki. So at the same time we did a piece, Adrian Stimson, I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work, but he has a character named Buffalo Boy. So we were asked to do a performance together. So we reenacted a part in a film, if you're familiar with this image. And both being Alberta boys, we did a Brokeback Mountain called Buckskin Mounting. And basically, Adrian comes out, and we stand in this sort of position of the movie poster, and the music's playing, the acoustic music from there. And then it comes down, and Adrian says, we got a fucking situation here, and the whole tagline. And then he says, "Oh, I got some good medicine for this," and I'm rubbing my shoulder, and he pulls out some Lakota joint cream, and he proceeds to give me a full body rub down. So it's two males given a body rub down with Lakota joint cream. So now on to my Urban Indians series. This is one of the first shots. My underwear says Cherokee underwear. There's another one, buying cilantro. So these were this was work that I developed with Jerusha Brown, my photographer. And we kind of wanted to do a day in the life of a Native guy, sort of wearing his identity, I guess, like a suit. It got picked up by Richard Hill and curated in a show called The World Upside Down, which has been going across Canada. I think it just opened up in Juliet. Is that how you say it? Yeah, yeah. And part of the show, these works are set on billboards. So this is just in Calgary. And this was one of those tri-signs, so it would go through all 3 images. So that's me, get this done. Records. There it is in Kingston. It looks photoshopped. It's kind of weird. So these are a billboard series that have been going across Canada. They were in Victoria as well. I've also collaborated with Maria Hupfield from Toronto, and we had a show called Wagon Burn This and Princess Moonrider That. And I basically did a piece my mom told me to, and it's basically burn a wagon. So I'm doing a wagon burner, which is a stereotypical sort of slang for an Indian in the prairies. So I made mine come to life. And my daughter didn't paint that in the back, I painted it. And then that's Maria Hupfield's piece. She took a canoe and smashed it through the wall at A Space, Toronto. And she spent the summer making that canoe. We also did a performance together where we actually reenacted a song by the Big Bopper called Little Big Bear. Is it? No. Yeah, Little Big Bear. And it's about 2 Native lovers who live in this area, and there's a river that runs through it, and they can't consummate their love because of the river, so they eventually both go into the river and die. So this is an old doo-wop song or whatever. So there's me giving her. I also developed a piece for the World Upside Down called Casting Call, where I've gone across Canada and I've set out a casting call to the Aboriginal community. And what I do is, I'll just read it out here for you. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? For immediate release, Casting Call, a performance by First Nations artist Terrance Houle. Casting notice for First Nations, Native American, or Native men and women. Artist Terrance Houle's Casting Call is a new production being filmed in Banff, Alberta. Auditions will be held by the artist. Open casting call for First Nations, Native American, Métis, half-breed, quarter, Indian princesses and princes, powwow dancers, powwow drummers, 1/8 res, city Indians, Aboriginals, status, non-status, red Indian people, between 15 and 100, both male and female. Young, middle-aged, and elders, acting experience a plus but not necessary, traditional contemporary Bannock experience, Native war veterans, horse riding experience, an interest in bingo, war paint, Indian car, regalia, black wigs are all assets but not necessary. Any size and shape will be acceptable. We are looking for fit, big, small, tall, hunky, and beautiful, ugly, etc. Braided hair, long black or short will be acceptable. Love of nature, animals, and outdoors is a must. Deep respect for Mother Earth, must know the 4 directions. Owners of buckskin loincloth, breechcloth, and general hides a bonus. Fluent in native language and English. We are looking for Stoney, Blackfoot, Cree, Ojibwe, Dene, Navajo, Haida, Salish, Sioux, Métis, Crow, Pawnee, Micmac, Mohawk, etc., or any of the like. Must have experience as one of the above criteria. Auditions will be held for roles of natives playing non-natives acting in native roles.
And that's it? And then we go where it is?
Yeah, give me your full name and where you're from.
My name is Tori Mendoza. I'm a school Apache, and I'm currently residing in Syracuse, New York. that matters.
He was at the old church.
All right.
Yeah, because I'm just going to read the longer stage directions just to kind of give a sense of scale. Billy Jack and then Barbara are held up in the old wooden church. Billy Jack is blessing his hand with a feather by waving it over the top. Barbara is sitting against the wall, looking from behind Billy Jack.
You never told me what was in that thing.
Oh, it's my medicine bag. Got some owl feathers, sacred corn, snake teeth.
What's it for?
Contains my power. Without it, I'd be out of the flow of life's forces.
Like Samson without his hair.
You got it?
Billy Jack, can you hear me? Gene is coming in to talk to you.
Gene enters the church where Billy Jack and Barbara are held up. Billy Jack is bleeding from a gunshot wound to his side. Gene is trying to convince Billy Jack to surrender.
It just seems so insane that we have to go away without you. What about Barbara?
It's up to her to decide.
Will you go home with me?
No.
Can I ask why? From the day I was born to this moment, and every second in between, life has been just one big shipwreck, and I can't take it anymore. And the way things are going, well, those Indians say today's as good as any to die. Well, if you fought her well,
An Indian isn't afraid to die. Don't ever expect the white man to understand that.
I understand it. It's good for an Indian.
Like the old man said, being an Indian is not a matter of blood. It's a way of life.
So that was one of the casting calls. Basically, I get Aboriginal people to come in, anybody really, to come in and audition for roles that were originally played by non-natives playing natives. So it's sort of natives playing non-natives playing natives. And that part was from Billy Jack, if you're familiar with Billy Jack, who's a Kung Fu half-breed Indian from the 60s. So I have all these different scripts sort of scripted out, and different people kind of come in and pick and choose. I've got, I think, about 8 hours of film of people. So as well, with the World Upside Down, I got commissioned to do another piece for them, for the Walter Phillips, and this is a piece called Trails End, Entrails, and it's based upon the iconic sort of end of the trail sculpture and painting. And it's kind of me just being the Indian, and I'm in a playground and I'm like, nobody wants to play with me, you know, pouting. So this was actually commissioned to be on a bus, on the ceiling of a bus. So it was an 8x3 vinyl print that went on the ceiling of a bus in Banff. And it was up, I think, for 2 months. So people can kind of just ride and, you know, look at me. I also got asked to be in the Alberta Biennial in 2006. And this is a work that I developed with Jerusha called Landscape. And it's a 3-part series. It was a performance, and then it was these photographs, and then a film. And I'll be showing the film right after this talk, and I'll be doing a live soundtrack with Steve. And so we'll get to that after. But this is a work, this is Landscape 1, Landscape 2, and Landscape 3. And it's kind of like a Where's Waldo, I guess. I did this piece. This one was specifically shot at Nose Hill in Calgary, and it was all shot in Calgary. And I kind of wanted to develop this work based on the idea of landscape. And in my language, landscape, there's no word for landscape. There's no actual definition in Blackfoot that says landscape, like this is the land. When they talk about the land, they refer to the people that are on it. So they refer to us, like we refer to ourselves, or to those people over there. And that's how we describe land, is by the occupation of certain people in it. So I wanted to do this sort of piece that was based on this position I took this position I take where I'm kind of hiding in the background, or I'm sort of, just sort of stopping myself, and I'm lying face down flat, and I'm trying to either be a part of the landscape, or I might be dead, or I might be some sort of symbol of knowledge or something. And I developed this work because every time I walk out of my house, I always think to myself, my people walked here 10,000 years ago. And it blows my mind. And I tell that to my daughter, and she's just like, whatever. But I tell her every day, and it always brings, for me, it always brings sort of this hope that, that we're still here as Aboriginal people, despite all the hardships that have happened to our people, the extermination of our culture and things like that. So I kind of wanted to make this piece where it's kind of like this sleeping sort of knowledge that's underneath us. I think if we all understood history a little more from different perspectives, then we'd understand each other a lot more. And there's a lot of knowledge underneath the pavement that we walk on every day. And in Calgary, all the streets are named after, well, not all the streets, but a lot of the major streets and major roadways are all named after Blackfoot people or Sarcee people or Métis people. So our presence is there. But if you ask people, do you know who Sarcee is? Do you know what that signifies? And they wouldn't know. Or if you say, do you know who Deerfoot is? Oh yeah, it's the highway that runs through Calgary, But really, he was a runner that ran across the prairies, and he eventually got arrested and, belittled by the army. And they hated him because he was a really fast runner, and he would run messages from all the different tribes. So I kind of wanted to sort of, I guess, kind of present this sort of sleeping knowledge. And we just asked those people were just there in the park, and we just asked them if they wanted to be in a picture. And I guess they couldn't refuse a guy in a loincloth and bustle. So this is downtown Calgary. I also did some magazine shots with my photographer, and we were kind of reenacting. We got asked to reenact Chief Longlands, who was actually an African American, posed as an Aboriginal for many years, and he used to work at the Calgary Herald. So they wrote a story about his life, and we kind of developed these photographs around that. So we got to go shoot at a circus, because he was part of a circus. This is landscape, the performance, where there's a projection of these people walking by, and I'm lying in front of it. And I just kind of lie there for about 15 minutes until my body gives out. It's not hard, it's not very easy to just lie there, Like every time I do this, my body just like shuts down, and I start shaking. And I did this up in Quebec, in interior Quebec, and this was in this old mill, and it was November, freezing cold. I was literally shaking on the ground. So. Last year, well, not last year, a year before, I was asked by the Glenbow Museum to do a Connections to Collections. And basically what they do is they offer an artist a chance to make a work in response to something in the collection at the Glenbow Museum, or to the collection itself, like the whole collection, or the museum. And the Glenbow houses the most artifacts of the prairies. And a lot of my people's stuff are in there. And what I found was a portrait of my grandmother when she was 17, done by a German-born artist, Weinhold Ries. And basically, this piece was there were two portraits done of her when she was 17. That was like 72 years ago, so she's in her 90s almost.
Were you aware these existed?
We were aware that they existed, but I wasn't aware that the Glenbow had one until I stumbled upon it. And the funny thing is, this was hanging up, and I had another show at the Glenbow, and I was looking around, and I saw this painting, and I'm like, wow, that woman's gorgeous. She's beautiful, And And I'm just thinking, wow, amazing, right? And I look at the name and I'm like, oh, I know that artist. And I'm like, man, she seems so familiar, you know? And I'm just an idiot, right? And then I look and it says Many Snake Woman, which is my grandmother's Blackfoot name. And I'm like, oh, that's my grandmother's name. And I'm like, that's my grandmother, you know? Like, and I kind of felt weird because I was like, oh, she's pretty sexy, you know? And I'm like, gross. Anyway, so what I did was I actually asked my grandmother to come and look at the portrait, and she hadn't seen it in 71 years at the time. So I asked her to come and look at it, and what I did was I actually I redid the portrait in video of her now, and then I did a portrait of her now, and then I did a portrait of my mother, and then I did a portrait of my sister, and then I did a portrait of my daughter. And the piece is called Many Snake Woman, The Daughters After Me. And I kind of wanted to make this piece that was based on I guess, survival. A lot of those portraits were done to capture Aboriginal people because they were believed to be a dying people, right? And then there's the Indian princess, the significance of that. So I kind of wanted to show that my grandmother is still alive, you know, and that she has generations after her that are still alive. And that's directly tied to the artist. So I asked her about we took her to see the piece, the painting, and we'd ask her about, you know, what does she remember from this? She sat and looked at it for a very long time, and then she said, she goes, you know, I'm not beautiful anymore. And we're like, oh, Grandma, you know, you had tons of kids and whatnot. No, really, we were just like, yeah, you know, like you lived a full life, right? Like you've got great grandkids that you can see, and you've been such an inspiration to everyone. And she's like, she kind of thought about it, and she's like, yeah. And we just asked her about it, and about the time that it got shot, or the portraits got made, was she got out of residential school by getting married to my grandfather, and then she had my grandma, or my aunt, and that was just like months after she had my aunt, and she got paid for it and stuff, and they wanted to take her to New York and use her as a model, things like that. So it's kind of an interesting story. So it was a video installation, and there's the portrait, my grandmother, and I'll just show you a quick video clip here. How's our time? I'll have to speed it up. I can't spell.
You can put it on the ground if you want. Do you remember how you had it before? How you held it? No, that's okay. I know the lights are bright, but I'm just going to adjust the camera here.
So that was just a little clip of her.
Good, and then I'm going to do one lift up the glasses. Stay close. Are you getting hot on the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe powder.
Okay, let's see your eyes open wide. Yeah, like open up wide like this. Okay.
Okay, now let's bring your head down.
She had just survived cancer, actually, and
Yeah.
she had
Bring your head down.
she had basically gotten a stem cell transplant, and this is like just months after
Put your
that.
lipstick. Just wait there, okay, Nico? Yeah,
It's my daughter.
okay. So look right into the camera. Okay, so bring your chin down a bit more. Like, look like this. Go. Yeah, perfect.
So I kind of wanted to give a reality to these portraits, and just sort of talk with them and interact.
Hold it right here, okay? You're the best ever. Okay. Lord.
Here we go.
Real dramatic, eh?
Okay, look up into the camera, Nico. Put your head up a bit. Yeah.
So those would just run on a loop, and it was about, I think, 40 minutes of footage. So, and there she is again. I've also gotten into doing film works for other people. This is still from a piece called Lala by a local musician in Calgary called Lucid 44, who is actually, we'd known each other for about 10 years, and then we found out we were actually cousins, which is really bizarre. But we did this film together, Super 8 film, and basically he plays a grave digger, and he digs this grave, and he finds all these cheesy robot parts, and then the robot constructs itself together and then kills him and puts him in the... So it was for one of his songs. And, here I am again with Adrian and Lucid 44, Adrian Stimson. We did a piece where we did this sort of, Adrian came out with a cowboy, and they got into this stance like they're ready to go at it, and just like fight. And they're just like, oh, and we're doing this music in the background that's slowly building and trying to build this tension. And they're slowly walking around in a circle and just slowly going to one another, and they're ready to just like go at it, and instead they totally make out. So this was for an Aboriginal symposium at ACAD. So then we sort of did a big soundtrack to the makeout, and it was kind of cool. So there they are making out. So it's kind of playing with the stereotype of the cowboy and the Indian, and me and Adrian have collaborated a few times, and we always tend to do something that's involves making out. Two men making out. In Saskatoon, I started working again in this sort of genre where I wanted to make soundtrack and do video and integrate it with live performance. So I did a piece, this piece, which is, I forget the name of this piece, but basically it's a two-channel projection installation, and it's the native man on one side, or the teenager, and then the girl on the other side. And they're both sort of pointing at each other, and they're kind of cooing and just kind of like, hey, and it's kind of like the last day of the powwow or the last day of camp, and you've met somebody and you're like, well, right, forever, and I'll come see you and whatever, right? So they're doing that sort of across from each other, and we're doing a soundtrack to it. And then we have live powwow dancers come in, and they're older dancers, so it's kind of like they've come together and they've seen each other after all these years, that they're possibly these two characters. And then they end up sharing a kiss. And they're sort of consummating that, you know, the what they had here. And I'll just show a tiny little clip here. In this piece, she actually started crying because she actually just had that experience in that summer where she met a guy and things like that. So that's just a little clip of it. So after doing that show, I had to develop some work for the Art Gallery of Alberta. So I went over to Adrian Stimson's house and I shot him with a hard-on in his loincloth for this series called Pitch and Teepees. And these are large-scale photographs. They're like 5 by 3 feet, so almost life-size. So this was a series that or a triptych that I did, and it's kind of based on kind of being embarrassed to be an Aboriginal male because of, you know, I always kind of think like there's a lot of social problems, and a lot of males that I know, Aboriginal males, they sort of don't take care of their shit, and it's a real problem. So it's us kind of being embarrassed about having this hard-on under a loincloth, and you know, there's a lot of Aboriginal males that just don't take care of their shit, and it's so disappointing for myself because, you know, I have a daughter and I try to raise her well, and I see a lot of problems on reservations in inner city because of, you know, the male role isn't there anymore. It's all just aggression and you know, alcohol and all these sort of things, drugs and gangs and, you know, things that are just rampant, homophobia, you know. And you go to ceremonies and my dad's a sun dancer now, where they do the piercings here, and then they rip out the piercings and and they fast. And it's a traditional sort of way of becoming a warrior to attaining sort of enlightenment. And those things almost sort of got forgotten. But I see those men doing that, and I'm like, wow, these are like Aboriginal men. These are, caring people that can sacrifice themselves in that manner for their people, So I also got to go to Beijing last year and present many snake women at a conference, and this was just before the Olympics. So it's nice to present the work there. And then I went to a First Nations show in Beijing, which was really bizarre because everything was encased in glass and it looked just like old school European museum. This is a dead culture sort of presentation. So we got to you go through the exhibit and you see all the different tribes, and then you go to the end and they had styrofoam totem poles that were painted. And they were quite amazing, really. But we couldn't photograph anything in there, so that was the First Peoples of Canada. And I found this really cool motif there called T-Tribe. And I went in there and I'm like, and they're just like, who fucking cares? They don't know. They don't have no idea about, Aboriginal people. It's just like an icon to them, right? So. I also got to work on a piece called Don Quixote with local musician Matt Masters, and it was a sort of retelling of Don Quixote, but through an Aboriginal man and a crazy cowboy. So we had a live honky-tonk band on stage, and then they would go into songs, and then we would tell this sort of story, and it was kind of like a play, cabaret kind of thing. So Matt's wearing a rug. And I found this beautiful shirt with an Indian holding a pipe and a wolf and a moon. So it's quite an interest. We also got to go to Nuit Blanche with this piece. And it's funny because the whole piece was based on this idea of the cowboy code. And the cowboy code is this. And if you guys can recite this with me, we can wake up a little bit, because I know I'm almost to the end, guys. So let's just say the first one all together, okay? A cowboy always keeps his word. Number 2, a cowboy is always brave but never careless. 3, a cowboy is a hard worker and a quick learner. You guys are going to be cowboys by the end of this. A cowboy obeys the law of the land. 5, to have a friend, a cowboy must first be a friend. Number 6, a cowboy helps people in distress. Number 7, a cowboy stays clean in mind, body, and deed. Number 8, a cowboy never shoots first. Number 9, a cowboy is gentle with women, children, the elderly, and animals. Remember that. And finally, number 10, somewhere, sooner or later, a cowboy has to pay for what he's taken. Those are codes to live by, guys. So last year I got to go to Regina and develop a work through this Aboriginal community there. And I developed the Dudney Avenue project. These photographs were on bus stops all through Dudney Avenue. And Dudney Avenue is runs through the city of Regina. And it runs through all these neighborhoods and through the dock area there where the trains dock off. And then it runs through right near the stadium there, and through North Central, which is the gang area. And if you've ever seen the show Moccasin Flats, that's where they shoot that. And it's just basically generations and generations of Aboriginal gangs that have lived there. So, and then it runs through where the RCMP training area is, and where Louis Riel was hung, if you're familiar with Louis Riel. So this piece is called White Mob, and there are, I think, about 25 Rough Rider fans that I painted, because they're fanatical there about Rough Rider. And the one thing I found, I was asked to sort of do a project on Dewdney, so I did a lot, sort of some history behind the area. And there's always been riots happening there, and mobs. Even when Louis Riel was hung, there was like a mob, and they were selling tickets to his hanging. Excuse me. There were worker mobs and riots. So I kind of understood the Rough Rider fans a little more after doing that. This one's called Days of Buffalo. That's at the Buffalo Days area. It's called 100 Years. This one's called Untitled, Dead. It's kind of, there's the RCMP had a campaign that went on there that was, they had hats and shirts that said Canada's largest gang. And it was to combat the gangs there. Like, it's bizarre, so. And then this one's called Pray For Me. And I hand-painted all these, and I did the hair on this to look like Louis Riel, because he was hung on a windowsill, and his last note that he had written to somebody said "Pray for me" on it. So, does this thing follow? Sorry. Just gonna pick up the mic here. So these are all HO model scales, train model scales, and I thought I'd just have fun with them, and I super glued them to the area, and people took them all. I think he's even gone now. So. There's Lucid 44 in my daughter's room. This is the last series that I'd worked on this fall, or this summer. And it's just a pinhole camera series that I worked on with an artist in Calgary. And in Calgary, we have the Calgary Stampede, the world's craziest stampede rodeo, cowboy culture. It's total cowboy Indian culture. Has anybody been to Stampede here? We got 1, 2. It's kind of, Anyway, what happens is the city just goes mental over cowboys and Indians and rodeo. So they set up all these like little scenarios in front of restaurants and whatnot, and they hire crews to actually build these little sets. So I found this set, and it was a mini teepee, mini Blackfoot teepee, and a little shed, and like turkey feathered spears and stuff. So I wanted to take a photo, time-based photo, pinhole camera in that space, in my loincloth. So, pretty interesting. This is the last work I've sort of worked on. And then there's my daughter. Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 works here. The first work is called a video piece. It's not that one. It's called Sacred Soaring Bird Woman, and it's based on my mother. And I was asked to develop a piece about health and wellness. And my mother just recently beat cancer. She had cancer in her bloodstream, and then she had a stem cell transplant. So all I could think about health and wellness was about survival, and about how my dad was doing a sun dance, and why they do these rituals that are so, well, they were deemed barbaric, but why they do these rituals, and how these sort of rituals impacted our people, and that impact is survival, because our people living on the prairie, especially the prairie land, it was a harsh life. They didn't have any luxuries, So they had these sort of ways to deal with their ancestors and things through pity. So this is just this video. And then I'll show landscape, and I'll be doing a live soundtrack with Steve here. Yay. So stick around. This thing's a short video, so it'll be about another 15 minutes.
I'm from the Black tribe, and my Indian name is Nadine Woodbat. I lived on the north end of the reserve when I was young. It was a hard life, but at that time we didn't think it was hard. It was just the way people were. And in those days, people helped each other. And it's like the clan life, where they all help each other. If they kill a beef, they share it all. And if somebody had, like if they got flour, they would share it with the other families. I was at a funeral about 2 days ago, and I went to where our old home was, and a lot of things came back to me. I was looking at the grass. It's the same, I never, it was just really, skimpy. And not like here, like there's good grass here and it grows. But over there, like the grass is so short, and I was wondering how the horses ate grass. But anyways, they survived. Now, when I was born, I was very ill, so they had to take me to the medicine man, and he gave me a name right away. He said that nothing will happen to me. I'll live to be an old lady, and he gave me this name, Natubutaki. So he said this name will carry you to, you'll be an old lady. So I believe him, and I'm gonna live to be old. I always tell that to my husband, because I believe in the old man that he told me. My granddaughter, Sadie, she was given the same name at a night lodge, and nobody knew my name, my Indian name. And when the elder gave her name, it was my name, and I was really surprised, because how would anybody know that it was my name? But they gave it to my granddaughter. So, but he laughed about it, and he said, "Well, it's all right for somebody else to get that name. I'm not to give up my name." I found that I had cancer after that. I was very ill, and I kept going to the doctors, and they were doing all kinds of tests, and then they told me I had arthritis, but I knew I didn't have arthritis. It was something else. I had every test that they could give me to find out what was wrong with me. And finally I went to a different doctor, and then this doctor told me that he had suspicions that I have something else. Well, he arranged it for me to go see the doctor, the specialist, and that's when they did a bone biopsy, and they found out I had multiple myeloma. He said he was going to be very truthful, that I would live 2.5 years. And it's been now 2.5 years that I've been sick. I thought to myself, well, if that's what I have, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to fight this thing, and whatever it takes, that's what I'm going to do. The first thing I thought about was my grandkids and my kids. They still need me. They need me, so I have to survive. I have to do everything to get over this, because I want to be with my grandkids. I want to make sure that they grow up, they're looked after, and my kids. I want to be around for them for some more years. So I just told the doctor, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. I had chemo, then I had the operation, and I had radiation, and then the stem cell. And then now I'm just on this bone strengthening medicine. I couldn't believe how sick I was. The whole community helped in praying for me, and the different societies, they prayed for me. My husband made a commitment, vowed to do a sun dance, and after my transplant, like I was really lost a lot of weight, and my skin was just hanging. And my grandkids used to come, and they would feel my skin. Oh, you lost so much weight. And then I would show them my bat wings, and then they'd come in, come on, Grandma, show us your bat wings. So I would flap my, and stuff like that, and they would laugh a lot.